Bonus Monday.
It's a bonus Monday. You like that name? Yeah. Get some Elite Eights in today.
You good?
Calvin.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Jerry had said yesterday that he talked to his inner circle, and I assume you were part of that, and it was unanimous in trading Micah. Why did you think it was the right thing to do?
Well, I think, we just went through the whole process, and at the end of the day, it was unanimous. This is not something we came about. It wasn't something where it was like an overnight thing. We had talked about it, and at the end of the day, I think when you look at a football team, when you can potentially add up to 4 or 5 players and things like that, it gives you the ability to do some things. We were certainly excited about the addition of Kenny Clark. I've played against Kenny. He's very, very disruptive inside. And, again, when we looked at it, it was, something that at the end of the day, when you get a chance to get things back in return that you're excited about, then, you make the move. And so, obviously, at the end of the day, we got to maximize the picks that we have, and that'll obviously be the plan.
When you had talked to him over the weekend after the last preseason game, was it in your mind that there's a possibility he might not be with me?
When I talked to Micah?
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, look, it's one of those situations where when all my interaction with the players, it's, I'm checking on them, I'm talking to them, and but no, I didn't know. You never know. You're not certain until it's done, and when it's done, and that's the best way to handle that stuff.
God.
Brian, Todd Archer with ESPN. Was there ever a time that you thought it just wasn't going to work out with Micah?
I think I've been pretty upfront and honest that I was confident he would be back. I think at the end of the day, we're happy for Micah, his family. You look at the deal that he got. That's awesome. I wish him nothing but the best. I mean, he's done an incredible job here for the Cowboys for the last 4 years, and but again, you never know. I mean, you never know how these things are going to play out. And at the end of the day, I'm excited about all the additions that we've added, not just Kenny, but again, we've got some pretty good DBs that we've added. This is something you guys know all the time. It's a 365-day a year. But to get Triquez, Bridges, and Reddy Stewart, guys that we were excited about, to get Trevor Keegan. At the end of the day, we're about trying to upgrade the roster any chance we get.
And then, did you address the trade with the players today?
Yeah, I did. And again, what I told the players, it wasn't just about Micah. I said, this has been a tough weekend for a lot of guys. There's players that we had to cut, that I had to sit down and, tell them, hey, we're going to waive you, and here's why, and this is what, we're excited about with you, and here's areas that you can get better at. And then we were fortunate to get almost all those guys back. But I just said that at the end of the day, this business it's about that. It's about having hard conversations, and I felt very comfortable with the message to the team today.
And then you mentioned the picks and then what it could be in the future. What does this do for the Cowboys right now?
Well, again, I think, nothing's changed. My goals haven't changed. Our team goals haven't changed. I hit the players on that today after I talked about, just the tough couple days, for all the guys, and it doesn't change. The standard is the standard. I said that. We, with all the new pieces and people we had in there, I needed to hit the goal, which is to win a World's Championship. I needed to hit that. We also want to build one of the greatest professional sports cultures in the world, and that's part of the deal. When you add new pieces, you have to make sure they understand your vision. They have to understand your culture. They have to understand the way we view this game, and I think that's something we take a lot of pride in.
John Machado with The Athletic. Where were you at, and just what was your initial reaction when you see that this actually is happening?
I got a call from Jerry Stephen, and once I got the call from them, what I wanted to do was reach out to our players, and so I reached out to, I'd say, I don't know how many it was, a bunch of the leaders, and just, I wanted them to hear my voice. You never know how guys are going to take, the news like that, but I thought it was important for them to know 2 things. Me, I'm a connection guy. I'm not afraid to have hard conversations, and so, I talked to, I would say, 12 to 14 guys, and had some real candid conversations that I thought was very good. And again, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that some people might shy away from wanting to do that, but I just felt very strongly that these guys needed to hear my voice.
When we were out of training camp, it was pretty obvious that the edge rusher group might be your guys' deepest position. How much did that factor into this?
That was a big part of it. I think, you're always looking at different areas, and when you look at the guys that we have that can create, pass rush, Dante and Sam, certainly drafting a guy like Donovan. James Houston's a guy that's come out of nowhere, that we found on the streets, and Marshawn Nealon. There's guys that we have that play inside, that can play outside. So it was part of the decision. But this was not something that we just stumbled upon and said, yeah, let's do this. It was well thought out. It was a lot of conversations about it. And then again, at the end of the day, you got to make sure that it works.
Yeah.
Nick Harris, Forward Star Telegram. How much of the timing of this was not wanting the cloud of the distraction to push into week one of the season? Because you guys dealt with it all training camp, so questions on it. How much of the timing associated with it was getting it done for the season?
Nick, when you talk about trades and stuff, it takes multiple people to get these things done. And again, we didn't have a timeline. It's just when you make a deal, you make a deal. And we were able to make a deal. And the positive thing about it is we're into a regular 7-day cycle with Philadelphia, and it's one of those things that now we get to focus on Philly.
What has the overall team reaction been, and namely Trayvon Diggs, since he was super close to Micah?
Yeah, again, you'd have to ask the guys. Like I said, the real conversations I had with the guys last night, Trayvon was one of the guys I called. Obviously, he and Mike are very close, and he and I had really good conversation, and again, I'm not going to share that with you guys, but he appreciated the phone call. And again, not everybody feels like they have to do that as a head coach, but I do feel like, those guys, I wanted them to have a chance to talk to me. And I said, you guys can say anything you want to me. Here's kind of why we made the decision. Here's what went into it. And again, those conversations were powerful, but also will stay, between me and them.
And lastly, a big part of the deal is that it opens up a lot of cap space for you guys. You'll have the second most in the league right now. Do you anticipate using that cap space?
At some point, I would think, yes, we will. I laugh about that. But, yeah, look, we're in the business of making moves. We're in the business of trying to upgrade the roster every time we get a chance to. And we're glued in on the waiver wire. Will and those guys do an awesome job. And like I've said from the very beginning, the communication between myself and Steven and Jerry and Will and those guys is terrific, and they do an incredible job of just making it easy for us to turn on the film and look at certain guys that have traits like Triquez and Reddy Stewart that is like, okay, yeah, let's turn the film on and see what we think.
Tommy.
Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. Brian, some of the defensive ends in the locker room were saying that Micah texted the group chat last night. Have you talked to him since it happened? Did you exchange any sort of communication?
I saw Micah yesterday, but I have not. But that doesn't surprise me. Mike is part of our family. That doesn't change. When you leave the team, it doesn't. Zach Martin's still part of the family. It doesn't change, and it makes me happy that those guys are still going to be close. Shoot, we see them here in a couple weeks, right? It's like that'll be one that it'll be a ball, but like that's what I want, because what that means, Tommy, is that we are building the right type of culture where, hey, Mike is going on to Green Bay, but he's still part of the family here, and again, great memories with him and the guys in that locker room.
And then with Kenny, you mentioned this being a game week. What's kind of the plan for him this week, and then how much do you anticipate him playing on Thursday?
Yeah, again, I think he does have some. He's been playing in similar systems and has some exposure to Flus's system. He's a pro. He'll have no problem getting up to speed, so you should expect to see him out there.
Scholar.
Skylar Hicks with the AP. This seems like a less than ideal way to kick off your head coaching career, losing perhaps your best player a week before the season. You talked about feeling the need to reach out to the players. How do you sort of put a happy face on this for yourself?
Again, we've got lots of really good players, and again, I'm never going to change who I am. I understand what we've been tasked with from the minute I took this job. We're the Dallas Cowboys. I'm the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and I stared right down the barrel of the gun and said, hey, I want to win a Super Bowl. And so that doesn't change. You work and you get excited about the pieces that we've added. Again, it's been really cool to see the guys, wrap their arms around Kenny and, some of the other guys that we brought in, because, again, that's what's going to get us through the tough points in the season, whatever those look like. It's going to be the culture that we've created. And, again, I don't sit around and think about, oh, this is my first year as a head coach. This is part of the business, and I'm comfortable with that.
Garrett.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Brian, what would you say to people who question how does this bring the Cowboys closer to that goal-winning world championship, trading away someone who had 12 sacks in the last 4 years?
Yeah, I would say Mike is an incredible player. Nobody disputes that. He's a great player, but this is the ultimate team game. It's the ultimate team game, and we're not going to win a championship with just one person. It's going to take variations of the 69 guys plus that we have on this roster, and injuries are a big part of this. And we've built our depth up, and we've done those things. But those would be the things that I would say is that again, at the end of the day, this is the greatest team sport in the world, and to do that, you have to have pieces in place, and I think we have a lot of really good players in place.
Just quickly, how do you feel Kenny Clark fits into what Matt Eberflus wants to do, that kind of attack front style?
Yeah, I think it's a great fit, Garrett. I think, when you look at this guy, the way he plays the game, the way he, comes off the ball north and south, his hands are incredibly violent. This is a guy, I go back to my days in Seattle playing against this guy, and it was like, he's just an all-day battle matchup. He's battle-hardened. But wow, what a just incredible young man, and I think he is really excited about the opportunity to be a Dallas Cowboy, and I'm excited to get a chance. I have not met his wife and his two young daughters, but can't wait to meet them.
Joe.
Joe White, Dallas Morning News. You talked about the communication and the player acquisition all year long. In this case in particular, how much communication and what was kind of the overdrive with Kenny specifically in terms of saying, hey, that's a guy that we would like as a coaching staff? Yeah,
again, you guys have been around for a while, and again, when you want to stop the run, it's really important to have the pieces to do that. And so this is a guy that, having competed against him, was a huge piece of this puzzle. Like, quite honestly, if Kenny Clark's not in this deal, it may or may not happen. But I've played against this guy, Joe, for so many matchups, and he's just so disruptive in there. And I think in this front, with what he can do, with the depth that we have, with him and Osa in there, a couple UCLA Bruins, I think that gets me really, really excited. And again, it's really hard when you're standing on the sidelines and you're like, oh man, hey, they're chipping away at us in the running game. And you guys have talked about that. You have to be, strong up the middle. And that was an area that we felt very strongly about, that we wanted to get better at.
Player leadership is obviously a huge part of culture. When something like this happens, how much do you rely on a guy like Dak Prescott, who obviously is a big leader in there?
Yeah, of course. Dak was one of the guys that I called when this happened, along with, again, 12 or 14 other guys. And again, there's the leaders of this team and the players that I spoke to appreciated me taking the time to call them, and I appreciated being able to have these real conversations with them. And I think that's part of how you move forward, is you have conversations. And again, a lot of coaches probably don't feel that way, but I thought it was very important that once this happened, that they heard it from me. A lot of them had heard it broke, pretty quick, which it does nowadays. But you still get on the phone and you say, "Yo, what's up? It's Schotty. Got a few minutes," and you visit.
Todd.
Obvious of the Athletic. Ryan, you talked about the conversations with players. What have your conversations been like with Matt Eberflus, where, would he like to have a talented player like Micah? I'm sure he would, but, just going and having a player like Kenny then and plugging him in, and just how he goes about scheming.
Yeah, Flus's ability to be multiple and do different things. He's excited about Kenny and what Kenny can bring to this defense. And, when Flus's defenses have been at their best, they've been just dominant against the run. And, there's certainly ways that you can, use your multiple pieces to change fronts and things like that. I'll go back to the 7-iron comment. We haven't even begun to touch on the different matchups and personnel uses that we can use on a given day. But Flus is excited. He's looking forward to Kenny. He's same thing. He's a guy he's admired. And when you got a piece like that can be as dominant inside, it helps make everybody around him better.
In that room now, what kind of role does Dante Fowler take in a room that's pretty young with a lot of potential, but doesn't have that veteran, production?
Well, so I appreciate you asking about Dante. Dante was one of the players I called, and Dante's grown up so much, and he is a leader. And I think when I was first around Dante a couple of years ago, he didn't say much. But he speaks up in the meetings when we make it interactive and I ask questions about opinions of different things, about messaging and stuff like that. Dante, it's so cool for me because I see him growing into one of those guys that he wants to share, he wants to give back to some of the younger guys. So absolutely, that's a guy that has already been stepping up and will step up, continually in this role.
Babe.
Babe Loeffler, 105.9 The Fan. You're obviously in the first year of your contract. If you're in a situation similar to what Mike McCarthy was in last year, in the last year of his contract, would your thought process have been different?
I think we're all on one-year contracts in this business, babe. I really do. You do? Hey. Mine's a little more than that, but it's just, I really think, at the end of the day, we're going to be judged on wins and losses. And again, when you grow up in this business and you see the things that you see, whether it's Frank Reich after a year or some of the one and dones, and it doesn't scare me, doesn't startle me, it's the business. And if you're good at what you do and you know how to capture your players and get them pulling in the same direction, which I think we're going to do a great job of, I think we expect to have great success this year.
Jeff Gold with Fox 4. Shotty, obviously, you're trying to invoke positivity, on these calls with the players. Do you acknowledge this as adversity, though?
I don't think so. Again, you have two ways to look at it. And again, this was a unanimous decision. When we talked about it, this was unanimous from top to bottom. And again, when you look at it, there's going to be adversity. I don't see this as adversity. I think that, again, guys will step up. Guys will really do a great job of, again, bringing these new pieces into the locker room and the culture and get them up to speed. It was cool for me just looking over during practice today and seeing Kenny talking to Dante Fowler and Donovan Ezraku. And, it kind of, that's what you want. These guys aren't all standing off by themselves going, what's going on? No, it's not what you do in this business. You could lose players for different reasons in this game. We all know that. Guys retire, guys get injured. There's different ways you lose players. And so, no, I think that there's a chance for us to grow as a football team.
You got the call from Jerry about the trade. What was his main message to you about the move?
Really, the biggest thing was just that it had been agreed upon and it was done. And, again, like I said, we had been in conversation about it. And so that's immediately when I knew it was time for me to pick up the phone and reach out to some of our leaders.
Nick.
You've talked about wanting to have the right guys in here. You want to build an elite culture. Did culture play any sort of role in making this decision?
No. Micah and I have, we've, everything I've ever asked Micah to do, Micah, has been awesome. And Mike and I have had some real conversations going back to last week. You guys asked me about, after the preseason game. So the answer to that's no.
What would you have to replace from him as a leader?
Again, I think, the biggest thing would be some of the young guys are going to have to step up. Donovan knows that. I think I had a chance to talk to Donovan this morning. And, again, leadership, we're strong on leadership. I really do believe that. We're strong on leadership in this locker room, and adding a guy like Kenny Clark doesn't do anything to diminish that. It actually helps that tremendously, and that's one of the reasons that, again, when you look at this, you say, okay, Kenny's going to be a big piece of what we're trying to do because he plays the game the right way. He's I know you guys had a chance to talk to him. He's not overly vocal, but, man, the way he plays the game, the play style, it jumps off the film at you, Nick.
Kyler.
adding Kenny changes the depth chart a little bit as it relates to Mozzie. We've asked you a little bit about him this preseason. Do you feel the need to sort of communicate with Mozzie and kind of keep him engaged and make sure he's sort of still there?
Were you in my office on Wednesday? Whatever day it was. No, I brought Mozzie up and spoke to Mozzie. And why? Talked about Mozzie with his consistency, and he knows that. And again, he understands. I believe in Mozzie. I do. I believe in Mozzie. I believe that we will get the most out of Mozzie Smith. But I also made it very clear to him that, hey, it's got nothing to do with you being a first-round draft pick. It's that, hey, we know how capable you are of playing to a certain level, and how can we help you do that? So it was a very, very good conversation. But it's funny you asked that because that was a real conversation.
Nick.
Coach Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com. Micah was a guy that he rushed from left side, right side, sometimes in the middle. Not to give away what you're doing, but do you have guys that you feel that can kind of move around and be flexible like that?
Yeah, and you know, we're going to be multiple. We're going to move guys around. I think I talked a little bit about some of the guys that play inside that have gone outside and vice versa. But I'm certainly not going to, like you said, give away the advantages. But yes, I feel very comfortable that we're going to move the pieces around, and we'll always be looking for matchups. I think that's what Flus and A-Dub, White Cotton, when I say A-Dub, you guys know that, but they're so good at is finding matchups and the type of rusher versus a certain guard or a certain tackle. Those things are really, really important.
Ed.
Ed Werder, WFAA. You said that this was a unanimous decision of the front office and the coaching staff. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't conversation and concerns expressed along the way. Were there people who needed convincing that this was the right thing, or was it obvious to all involved that it was the benefit outweighed the risk?
No, I think the conversations were always great, back and forth. Again, I'm not going to get into the different things that we talked about, but there'd be some times that you'd say something or someone would say something, and it was great, feedback. Well, okay, what about this and what about that? And sometimes when we'd have those conversations, it would generate other thoughts. But again, at the end of the day, it was a unanimous decision. And again, I wish Micah nothing but the best. And I really do look forward to seeing him before the game against Green Bay, but maybe not on the field.
Brad.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio 105.3 The Fan. In other news, you mentioned the two defensive backs you claimed a couple times. What do you like about them? Do you envision a competition in practice for the slot position? Now you've got the two guys you used back on the practice squad. And what did you like about the guard from the Eagles?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about Bridges first. The length jumps off the film at you. He looks the part. I saw him and Vaughn standing next to each other today, and that's what they're supposed to look like. But he's just very, very comfortable in coverage. Like when you're watching him play the man-to-man coverage, he was so comfortable playing in all different types of press man-to-man. He's got great length. He's very aggressive in run support. We talk about all the time, no house guests. For Stewart, he has the advantage because he knows the system, having played for Flus. We actually watched some of his clips from Minnesota, but also from him with Flus, and they only got him active, I think, one time last year. But here's a guy with tremendous ball skills. I think he had 12 interceptions. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong on that, in college coming out of Troy, 2 in the preseason a couple years ago. So that jumped off the film. And then, for Trevor, it was a guy that we liked coming out. And, again, that center guard flex is something that's really, really valuable for, any team. And so I think that was, something that we were looking forward to, but we're always looking to try to upgrade and find different pieces that might make us a better football team.
Last one, Todd.
Have the players selected captains yet?
We actually voted on today, and so I'll let you guys know when I get them all tallied up. And we are going to do, I think I shared with you guys, we are going to do year-long captains along with a captain of the week based on guys that deserve it. But like I said before, I think it's really, really cool to be able to say you were a captain of the Dallas Cowboys in 2025.
Artie?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.